Hey YouTube, it is Catch Cup and the Open Match League. And if you are like me, I have one legendary Pokemon that is level 50 in the Open Match League. Uh, I do not have the majority of these XLs, or I don't even have the majority of these Hundos. So if I play this league, I have to rely on non-legendary Pokemon. And I am here to tell you that if you have a bunch of these level 50 non-legendary Pokemon, you can compete in Open Master League. So basically what I'm going to do is go over sort of like the five, there's not many of them. Like, let's be honest, there's not many of them, but there are a few that if you have these Pokemon, you can mix and match them and still be competitive in Open Master League. So we're going to start right with Dragonite. Dragonite has always been one of the top Pokemon. You do not even, again, it has had many community days, but you do not need a community day for this. Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw, Superpower are both accessible through just normal moveset. 21 and 13 record. And it's just a very, very obvious. You only have Dragon and a Fighting type moves, so you are just going to lose to Fairies. You're just going to get out bulked, plus take super effective from the Dragon Tail Lugia. But other than that, like, you can hit for super effective superpowers on Dialga, neutral on Metagross. There's a bunch of dragons in here. Again, a lot of things are weak to fighting or dragon, right? Giratina also weak to dragon. Mamoswine, Melmetal, weak to fighting. Dragonite, weak to dragon. Ho-Ho, you resist the fire that they have to throw. They have to throw like a Brave Bird or something. Garchomp Garchomp, Reshiram, Zekrom, like all the dragons here that you just do well against. And it comes down to the stat product of Dragonite. So Dragonite actually has really nice stats here. So level 50, I'm assuming these are maximum stats. Yeah, you can best bet if you want. But look at, like, I just picked like Rancor or random Pokemon. See, it's like higher than attack and Yveltal and better defense, just lower stamina. You can go like Mewtwo, which has like obviously a higher attack because it's Mewtwo, but like lower defense and equalish stamina. So the overall stat product is not too bad compared to I'm assuming Groudon's pretty high. Yeah, Groudon's sort of like a beast in its own. Let's see Xerneas, because I just had it bumped up, right? You have similar, again, higher attack, lower overall stamina, but your overall stat product is quite comparable. So Dragonite is, if you don't have Lugia, if you don't have Giratina, Dragonite is one of the easiest to get. It should have been around for a while. You probably have the XLs if you've been playing for at least 1 or 2 years, and you do not need that. So Dragonite is great, and I would pair it. Let's see who they recommend pairing it with. They recommend Mewtwo, Xerneas, all these legendary Pokemons. We're not going to pair it with that. We are going to pair it with the one thing that takes out all of these fairies, and that is, where are you, Metagross? 43. I don't care that Metagross is ranked 43. Metagross, in my opinion, is one of the best sort of closers Pokemon in this. If you have, so 15-19 record is not bad. Let me see if you have shield advantage, because I've got to imagine that this is going to go substantial. Yeah, and this is kind of what I know, having played with it a lot. Metagross with shield advantage is one of the strongest Pokemon in this meta. So if you can grab shields with Dragonite plus whatever your third is, first of all, let's just go over the matchups, because it is, let's put it in actually the even shield just so we can see on an even scale here. Your losses should not be surprising. You're anything that's like ground, you're weak to ground and you're weak to fire, right? Fusion, Flare from Reshiram. You're weak to dark, crunches from Zekrom. You're, again, ground. You're weak to ghost. So you do have a lot of weaknesses because you're psychic and steel typing. So some of these you're just not gonna have a good time with. Great Groudon. Like, there's a lot of losses, but you're not, again, a lot of these things that I just mentioned, fire, water, ground, Dragonite is going to cover. So what you are going to cover is hello fairies, goodbye fairies, right? Nice ones against fairies. Even Dialga, which is everywhere, which is kind of like neutralish against Dragonite. Dialga, you're going to beat that because you resist everything, and you can throw the Earthquake. And there's a lot of just like neutral matchups against like sort of meta Pokemon. Palkia, Mewtwo, Dragonite, Lugia, like a lot of strong matchups there. So cover your again, that's why I think it's such a good pairing with Dragonite. So cover your ground weakness, cover your fire weakness, cover your ghost weak. I mean, it's not a ghost weakness, but there's only like one real ghost in this, and it's Giratina, which is take super effective from Dragon, right? So that is why I really like Metagross. I did just kind of show it in the 1v0 shield. It is very, very, very strong when you can get shields down. And Dragonite is very good at getting shields down. So they are a great combo. In terms of stat products, it is obviously actually similar, like 8,000 total stat products. So it is one of those Pokemon that like hits hard. I always say it's a bit glassy because again, the stamina is a bit low here, 172. Good defense, but a little low on the stamina, which you do feel in this league. But super strong attack, fast charging, bullet punch, meteor mash, earthquake, super strong just combo there. So that is something I would definitely run. The third one I would talk about, which I just had on my team, is Gyarados. So you can use either Shadow Gyarados, and if you don't have it, I'm going to go non-Shadow because I'm sure most people like I do not have the Shadow. So let's just go non-Shadow. Rank 36. Look at that sort of 2014 record, but look at that sort of medium distribution there. And that is what you love to see. So those losses are going to be fairies because you're just, right? Fairies because they resist the Dragon Breath. What I always say about Gyarados, why I love Gyarados is whenever you can be a Dragon Breath user that does not take super effective from Dragon Breath yourself, you are a good Pokemon. And that is where Gyarados is. It will hit super effective Dragon Breath against all these things weak to Dragon here, right? Garchomp, Giratina, Zekrom, Reshiram, all the dragons, which there's a ton of dragons in Open Great League, but you do not take super effective from the dragon yourself. Dragon Breath is such a good fast move. And then Aqua Tail is not a good move, but it's a nice sort of either bait move or just a quick, very spammy move, especially when Dragon Breath is doing so much damage. And then Crunch is a very nice because you have so many like ghosts, psychics in this meta, right? Lugia, Giratina, Mewtwo, all take super effective from Psychic. So being able to spam Dragon Breath plus that Psychic plus the Crunch and the Aqua Tail is just a great combo here. Very, very safe. Again, your toughest problems are going to be when you resist the Dragon Breath. So fairies and steals. Is this in the 1v1? Yeah, this is 1v1, right? This is how strong this Pokemon is. So I have, so if you don't have a Dragonite, Gyarados is a nice option. Can you use something like Gyarados, Dragonite, and Metagross? Yes, to a certain extent. You're going to see a video coming on Saturday where I used Gyarados, Metagross, and I used Lugia because it's the only legendary I have. And Lugia also has that same sort of Dragon Tail fast move, right? So I had double Dragon Tail fast move. So Lugia is much, much better just because it has the Aero Blast, which hits everything for so hard, right? Where you don't get that same sort of pressure with Crunch and Aqua Tail. So obviously Lugia is better. But can you run double Dragon Breath users? Yes, you can. Not ideal, but like in a pinch, yes, you can. There are a lot more fairies now with Xerneas, and obviously everyone is still using Zacian. So I wouldn't recommend it if you can not do it. I wouldn't recommend it. So, but overall, it's great. Where it lacks is the stat product, and I felt it when I played. This is where sort of the non-legendary, non-bulk, non-everything comes into play. So lower attack, lower defense, lower stamina, and you feel that. Especially 211 attack is actually not quite bad. But you just, because again, you do well with the Dragon Breath and stuff. But like I went against a Dialga. Where I got all the Dragon Breaths. I got a Crunch, which lowered their defense, and then I got an Aqua Tail, and they beat me just going Dragon Breath and resisted Iron Head, right? So you're gonna have some bad. That's where, again, if you have the 1150 legendaries, great. If you don't, like I do, Gyarados is a nice budget option, but just be aware that it does have sort of the lower stat product compared to some of these other things. So those are the three that I would say you should definitely have. If I'm gonna go to Mamoswine S4. So for those of you who are very new to this channel or were not around when I played with Mamoswine during the first few seasons, because during the first few seasons there was a lot less legendaries, right? A lot of these legendaries that you see now that are sort of dominating this meta. I mean, Zygarde we're not even going to talk about yet, but we're not here. Like, Xerneas wasn't here, Meloetta wasn't here, Kieran wasn't here, Lugia wasn't here, Zekrom wasn't here, Florges wasn't here, Zacian wasn't here, Rayquaza wasn't here. There was like 8. Reshiram wasn't here, Yveltal wasn't here. There was like 8 Pokemon that dominated the meta. Mewtwo, Giratina, Dragonite, Dialga, Metagross, Excadrill to a certain extent, and Mamoswine was my secret weapon, because Mamoswine, you get lit up, so you're weak to water, and you can't do anything about that, right? Weak to water. And now Groudon, back in the day, this is actually a good matchup because you can take this you can take this. But now Precious Blade is just such a hard hitting move that you can't take this, which is unfortunate. So, but if you shield correctly, you will take this matchup, quite honestly. So, and again, now these fairies come out with close combat, and you're weak to fighting too, and these are gonna like one shot you, right? So this is where it kind of dropped a bit. But other than that, it was great back in the day. Obviously, there's so many dragons, which you hit super effective against. There's a decent amount of flyers, Lugia, Togekiss, Landorus, all take super effective. In a neutral matchup against Excadrill, you did well. Again, lots of flyers here. Dialga, you take super effective from Iron Head, but you could have gone just straight. What's this? You could have gone straight Avalanche back in the day. Powder Snow Avalanche, like you bait the Bulldoze back in the day. High horsepower is now a way better move. You baited Bulldoze, and you can just go straight Avalanche and take it out. Just going 3 Avalanches compared to before they get to 2 Iron Heads. So it was always a strong Pokemon. Definitely one worth using. So again, why it's a little weaker now is just because a lot of these things, you were always going to lose to Ho-Oh. You're always going to lose to Kyogre. Like those are not new. And again, if you shield Precipice Blade properly, I think that you're going to beat Groudon anyways. It's now these sort of fairies that now have access to a close combat, whereas now it gets a much trickier. So if you're going to run it, I would run it with 2 things that do not don't have problem with the fairy, which makes it difficult, right? Because you have, look at the Pokemon I talked about so far. So you have Metagross, which is obviously a great answer to the fairy, but then you are just going to get destroyed by Kyogre, right? Kyogre would light up Mamoswine and Metagross, so you can't just go that. And then the other 2 were dragon, like a real dragon and then a Dragon Breath user. So that is where it gets very, very tricky, and that's probably where I'm now going to go. So in terms of stat products, like I said, still on a bit lower end. Attack, not bad. Stamina, pretty good. Just terrible defense here. But very, very Powder Snow, Avalanche, high horsepower, very, very hard hitting moves and very fast charging moves. So definitely one that I've built up and I've used many times. Before I just deleted the battles, not matrix single, and level 50. Okay. So that's the 4th one I would use. And the 5th one I would probably use, it's interesting because Melmetal's here with double Iron Bash. And I know that Excadrill is much lower now. It's down to 60. And I think it's just because you have that same issue with the stat product, and now everything being able to, those same fairies being able to hit for super effective. And this is sort of the, so I'm going to say Excadrill because Melmetal is technically like a, what is it, mythical? It's sort of the one of the weird ones. But Excadrill would be my number 5. But as you can see, not a good rating, 11 and 23. The thing is, you're never using it in a straight up matchup. You're using it as one of the hard punishes to Dialga, like just straight domination against Dialga, which is why it was always in the back, because Dialga was often used as a safe swap. But the problem is now, in neutral matchups, you're just like so glassy. And now, again, the fairies, where you're steel, the fairies with close combat cause you a problem. What I do want to check is if you have a mud shot advantage. 11 and 23 versus 15 and 19. 16 and 19. Right? I just added, take that away. Let's just do this again so you saw that. In the 0 even matchups, you are 11, 23, and 1. If you say swap and get 1 mud shot advantage, you now jump to 16 and 19. And this Pokemon was often used, especially in in the classics, or where, yeah, where classics were legend, no, classic level 40. Which one? Premier. Premier, where there was no legendary. This is often used as a safe swap because of this advantage right here. You get one mud shot, you flip a bunch of matchups, and it is so spammy. There's so many steals or flyers in this meta where you can just go drill and rock slide. It's quite strong there. Again, stat product is the only problem, where it's now 5,900 overall, which is the lowest stat product we've seen, which is why it's dropped so much, because there's just so many higher stat product Pokemon, and then so many Pokemon that now, like those fairies with close combat, can now take you out with just one-shotting you there, which makes it a little trickier. So the question is, we're seeing Xerneas, and I didn't even go over Florges, because Florges is kind of a little... So Florges is number 12. Let me actually go to Florges, because Florges is... If you need a fairy and you want something that's not going to take super effective from those close combats. I don't have a hundo yet, and I'm still working on the XLs, but Xerneas and Zacian Light is Florges. And the only why people would obviously use these two, there's two reasons. One, let's just look at stat products versus Xerneas. Right, so 6,900 versus 81, and Zacian is probably the same thing, right? 8,200, right? So it's not surprising that the stat product is different, but of course, the coverage. You have absolutely no moves to throw at steals or fire here, right? So steel and fire are going to resist everything, which is why it's going to show up here in the losses: fire, steel, steel. You just don't have anything to throw at that. Coverage just kind of out bulks you and stuff like that. But outside of that, if you want to pair your Dialga and Metagross or Excadrill, and you need something to deal with these fairies that all have close combat, here you go. Here is your winning formula. Plus, again, there is a ton of dragon in this, so it's also just a sweet option there. So very spammy. Disarming Voice, kind of a bait, but if you've never played, I've played with this in Ultra League. If you've never played with this thing, Disarming Voice hurts way more than you think it would as a bait move. So it is an extremely strong Pokemon to use. 21-14 record overall, great against all these dragons, and a nice answer if you want to put it as a third to help you deal with these fairies that all seem to have coverage now. So again, those are the main ones. Those are the main ones off the top of my head that I've used and I've seen in the past here. Yeah, I don't like Ursaluna in open. Snorlax, again, Snorlax, you kind of need the shadow, which if you have a shadow hundo, I think the difference is substantial between the shadow. Yeah, it's 67. And you feel that. And I was going to say, in terms of like stat products, like you really feel that. So again, the stamina is always great, but when you just can't hit hard at all in Open Great League, in Open Master League, with such a low attack stat, it just does not threaten all these legendary Pokemon, which makes it kind of tricky to run a non-Shadow Snorlax, in my opinion. But those are the main Pokemon I would deal with. So if I'm running on any team, I think you run like I would probably do like a Dragonite, Metagross, Florges combo. Let's see if that actually makes sense. Let's just go to the team builder quickly just to see if something like that actually makes sense. Metagross, Dragonite, Florges. I would expect that Metagross and Dragonite cover all each other's weaknesses beautifully, and they do. And there you go with Florges. Just generally safe down the board. A lot of wins against the top meta Pokemon. You are going to have, again, Landor. These are kind of like some weird ones. Landorus, yeah, sure. Dialga, you can still do okay with Dragonite and Florges against it. So in terms of coverage, Groudon, right? I mean, you'll still hit for Groudon here with Florges, so that's not a huge issue. Obviously, Metagross is going to get lit up by Groudon now, especially with Precipice Blade. But look at that, AABA. I just made an AABA team in the Open Master League with 3 non-legendary Pokemon. So it is possible. if you want to play this league, if you don't want to play Catch Cup. Like I said, it's still, some of these are easier to access than others. I think that Metagross and Dragonite, if you've been playing for like a year or two, you probably should have these XL'd already because they've had so many community days and so many loop arounds. Again, they've both been there. Florges is a little trickier. Again, I don't have the hundo or the XLs yet. I've got like 200 something XL, so I'm getting there. But there's opportunity to get that. It's obviously much quicker to walk than a legendary, that's for sure. And then Mamoswine, same thing. Mamoswine's been around for many, many community days, so you have the potential to have XLs there. And then Excadrill, again, it's been around a lot, so you probably have the opportunity there. So those are, and Gyarados, same thing. Gyarados has had a community day multiple, or at least once, maybe twice already, in the go around, and then you probably Magikarps are hatching and you can catch those. So I'm assuming you have the XLs for that. So there are a ton of strong options that you can mix and match in the Open Master League to be competitive if you do not have the XLs like I do not. So that is it. Let me know if any of you who play Master League use sort of non-legendary Pokemon, or if you are all just Groudons and Mewtwo's and Yveltals. Like I said, I only have a Hundo Lugia, which you'll see on Saturday, built up. My problem is I either have Hundos for these without the XLs. I have Groudon, Palkia, and a Hundo Functional 98 Kyogre. I just don't have the XLs for. Or I don't have the Hundos for the majority of them. I don't have a Hundo. How after 140 Mewtwo I still don't have a Hundo is beyond me, especially like 30 lucky trades. Mewtwo, Dialga, Xerneas, Zacian, I don't have the Hundos for those, plus I don't have the XLs for those. So I'm definitely a bit away from playing with many, many legendaries, but again, you can get by without. I think the Dragonite Metagross core is just super strong, and Florges seems to be like a great third option if you have it. Anyways, that's it. Good luck this last week if you were trying to grind to legend, and I'll see you guys in the next one.